Hey guys, it's Ellen. Welcome to my channel. You know, I guess I made Wednesday kind of like the abstract day, and today is no exception. We're going to be splattering. We're going to be removing paint. We're going to be bleeding paint. Going to be using textures, all kinds of fun stuff to create this really kind of cool and fun. I consider this like an abstract cherry blossom tree. You can always change the colors for a different tone. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section so I can answer them. I don't always get to answer every question, but I try and do my best. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't hit that bell notification button, please hit the bell notification button to know my tutorials up. Also, check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays on that Patreon, and live stream in the top tier. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. And you can check it out right up here up in the open corner. Boop. Yes. So without further ado, let's get painting. All right, guys, for this tutorial, I'm going to go over some supplies that I have. I have a piece of Arche 100% cotton cold pressed paper. It's about like a 10 by 10 size, taped down with Scotch Magic tape onto a thick piece of cardboard. I have water jars up here. I usually have like 3 of them up here. We're playing around with a sea sponge today. Using my spray bottle to activate the colors and use it for the painting, actually, to play around with. I'll be using various brushes. I'll talk about them as I use them. I have a bunch of them over here, and I just kind of play around and see intuitively which one I want to use. Obviously, I'm going to use like a big mop brush to put down some water in the first place, and then we're just going to play around. So, you know, this is something where you can kind of choose colors beforehand or choose colors as you go. I'm thinking maybe to this time I might do some like pinks and purples, maybe a little bit of orange. You know, just throw all the kitchen sink in, except not everything. No greens, maybe. I don't know. Just keep it in more of a like hot kind of pinky, reddish purple tones. So I'm gonna grab this little mop brush that I have. I don't even know what. It's just a craft brush. I'm gonna put some water on it, and I'm just gonna wet the whole paper really quickly. It's a big old moppy brush. You want to have a good sheen to the paper so the watercolor bleeds. And now I'm just going to mix up some colors. Just going to use my Princeton number 6 big old brush. I'm going to take this color which I love. This is bright rose. And just get this really loose. Mix up a good amount of that. And then I'm going to use some of the ultramarine with that. And mix them together. And you're going to make a nice purple. Magenta would work fine. I have quinacridone magenta right here. I'll make a different kind of color purple, but it would work just as easily. Oh, I got some purple in my rose, which I didn't want to do that. The rose itself with the yellow make a nice beautiful blush tone. Got some pink in that yellow, a little messy, that's okay. And there's some green in here, so my green's kind of dulling down my color, so make sure your palette is kind of clean. I'll go back and grab some yellow and then the pink. Nice blush tone. So we're just going to start by, you know, I have an orange here too, a brilliant orange, playing around with some of these colors. So I'm going to get this looser again, like I said. Just start putting, I'm going to kind of splat some of it down, see where it goes. I had this idea to do like this really abstract, kind of like a cherry blossom tree, or just like bright colored trees. It's good to have a big brush to make these splats. Also, which is kind of cool, I'm going to show you in a minute why I would have the sea sponge. Now I'm going to take some of this blushy color tone, kind of put that in there, grab some more yellow and pink. Just pretty orangey. If I want it pinker, just add a little more pink to that yellow. See? I want it fairly wet, so I'm grabbing more water. Already I like the pink and the orange. I'm just kind of tapping this big old brush and then let the paint kind of bleed itself to create the colors that I like. Clean up my brush. I'll grab some of this purple. Grab a little more blue. More pink. Again, I'm just loose, very wet. See how very wet that is? Blue, pink. Kind of playing around adding that color in here. A little bit darker. So, you know, if you don't want anything wrecked, kind of just be careful where you stick stuff. We can also just like kind of force color in certain places. I'm going to grab this yellow, make this more yellow, maybe just grab some orange. This brilliant orange is nice. So it's not wet here, see it kind of dried. I'm going to have to use the spray bottle. That's the beauty of having that. Now it's wet again. Can add this orangey kind of color tone. Maybe add a little bit yellow, or even some of that bright rose. I'm just going to keep playing around adding color. Notice how, see, I'm doing oranges and pinks and purples, like I said. And take that sea sponge I talked about, just kind of push the paint around. Grab some of the pinks. This itself creates a nice texture. I might just grab some real concentrated color. See that? It's always fun to play around with some new tools. Still just kind of simple tones. Really light back here. I want to add some more pink. So you really need to start mixing up a lot of color. Really wet. I get it on my sponge. Even grab some more concentrated pink. Just trying to fill us all in. And I think I really want it much darker than this. I'm gonna grab some more of this bright rose. Let's just play around with moving this paint around. It's just an intense color. Don't be afraid to like hold your painting on an angle, kind of move the paint around, see where it goes. It's doing this like finger thing, right? You can always clean up your brush, kind of force it in certain areas. Grab the yellow, just kind of pushing paint around. I might grab some of this peacock blue and mix it with that bright rose and see what kind of purple we have. So we're still kind of looking like one big blob. You can start to take some of the bright rose again. A little less water, a little more concentrated. We can start to play with splattering that and see where that bleeds. Again, add some of this magenta. Oops. Getting more texture in there. I want to have some good texture. I want to try and play with the orange too. Can loosen that up. Let's see what we got. Splat in some orange. Yeah, I'm really liking these bright colors. See, they're all like kind of hot tones. Do a few up here. Intentional splattering. This is so therapeutic, by the way. I'm going to do some more purple. A little less wet. So the ultramarine blue with the bright rose. This gets kind of messy. I'm loving the tones here. I feel like out here it's a little kind of just sitting around. Now I might take my sponge. I'll clean up my sponge. You can use this so many different ways. See, it's got the paint on it. I have to dip it in my water jar. Try and clean it off. And you can use it to remove paint. See? Or push it around. Circular motion. Kind of get this paper kind of grainy with color. Add a little more color. I'm adding and kind of taking it away. See, that's kind of cool. Removing it. That's why you have paper towels close by. Tap that wet down. And you're just kind of twisting it. Get pushed down. It has all these little nooks and crannies. It just kind of lifts up the color or puts it down. You can take sponges and remove paint this way. It's like almost sunbursting, right? Add a little yellow. A little bright color, kind of just, see I'm doing a circular motion. Adding a color in. You can take the pink, kind of wisp out some of this. I'm tapping it in here and then wisping it. Or you can kind of twist it, add the color, and it's going to create a nice texture. Again, still very wet over here, so you can play around with the purples, adding the purples in. The sponge is a lot of fun. Kind of liking how this has this kind of energy to it. So I might take a brush and do that whole removal kind of situation. I just have a simple, what is this? This is a number 12. I don't even know what name. It's not a Princeton, just a generic brush. Just a big mop brush. So you can kind of remove it like this with the brush. You want to do some like little circles, like the bokeh circles. Kind of cool to play around with that. This is abstract. There's no rhyme or reason to it, guys. Just playing around. Take a paper towel. You can really remove color. See, I'm really loving the energy of this. I don't even know what it is right now, but that's why I like intuitive painting. It's like, what will this become? I had intentions of kind of like a tree, kind of looks like a blossom, doesn't it? So I'm just going to keep playing with that a little bit longer. Adding in some more paint. Tapping in some more bright rose. And I do want to make some more purple. Add some more ultramarine blue. More of a blue purple this time. Water this down a little bit. And intentionally it's kind of tapping in. You see? Kind of creating my own. Put some up here. I don't want to splatter it. I'm intentionally tapping the color where I want it to go. I might water this ultramarine down itself, the blue. And I do want to get this energy kind of coming this way too. So put some of this magenta down this way. It's all like trial and error at this point. And then I want to add some more orange too. Ooh, I get really dirty. It gets very messy when you do an abstract. Go back in here, add some more bright orange, maybe a little more yellow. Really intense in there. And then take some of that bright rose, kind of bleed it in there. All right, and I can go back in again with the sponge. Where's my old trusty sponge? Not finding things. Kind of tap it out again. Creating that texture. Yellow. I'm gonna have to clean the sponge. Let me squeeze it. I do want some yellow. I'll go in here. Some really bright yellow. Pretty intense. You see that? Again, some swoosh. I'm loving the energy. The sponge is fun. Right? Kind of like sunlight's hitting this. And so we want to have a little more mystery over here. So I can grab some of this blue, kind of tap that in, and the pink. I'll take some more of this yellow and put it over in here. All that good stuff. The sponge is like the best. I have to do a tutorial where I show you how to make trees out of this thing because it's so much fun. So I'm loving the pink and the yellows. And at this point, you can start to play around with maybe taking the credit card and scraping. Let's see if you want to have some funky trees, right? Whatever you scrape, the paint, if it's really wet, it's going to go right into those crevices. So it's a really kind of crazy energy. If you create some kind of trees with branches. See that? You can kind of see it going in there. Just a little bit of there. So it's almost like a birch tree. The colors. You don't even have to do that. You can try and take some real intense color now. So I've got my Princeton 8 long round. I've got this color called neutral tint, which is basically like a Payne's gray or black, but it has more purple tone to it. Let's see. We'll take concentrated color. We don't want it really wet because it will bleed everywhere. And we'll just put some of those lines that we kind of scraped and just kind of go in and put the little branches and see if we like that. Could be this crazy tree. It doesn't have to be a tree though. It could be a bloom. You know. It looks like a bloom, doesn't it? More than a tree. If I don't like this, I can always try and play around with getting rid of it. It's kind of like an intense tree. So maybe I'll add some more of that to give it the trunk that it needs. The intensity of the tree. And then put little teeny branches out here. Really small and tiny, way at the top. Take your time with this. It's still very wet in here, so it's going to bleed. So you might not want to wait. You might want to wait a little bit till it's much, you know, more controllable, that it's not bleeding, whereas you're using more concentrated color. See how the color is not bleeding down like this one. We've got this intense tree going here. Also, while it's still wet, you can play around using white gouache or this white acrylic ink. I like to use these in some of my Bokeh or abstracts. Just gonna splatter a little bit and see how it looks. Not too much. And hopefully it should, if it doesn't bleed or blend, you can always spray. Again, I'm getting this more, I might get more intense up in here where the white is. So it creates more of a texture. See that? Go back in again. Create some, whoops, a little too much. You can kind of fix that. It kind of creates that texture. You should kind of see if you use salt. That little blob wasn't meant to be, but that's okay. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to use the spray bottle to my advantage. Loving the energy. Okay. So I made that little blob. Not too happy about the blob. Take my paper towel. You can see it's already kind of blending into the wet media. Here it might be staying on top. So here you might have to spritz. A little spritzer. Just a little spritz. And kind of play around with moving that paint. We're trying to have fun. It's a little art therapy. You know, isn't always about doing something serious. Again, I'll go back in here and I'll put my little branches. Some are more intense than others. Some you can make really faint, and some you can really see. So letting this whole white kind of let it bleed, see what happens. So I might have to wait till it dries. You can go back in and grab some burnt umber and mix it with the neutral tint. Kind of put that trunk in more, a little bit more intense. You could do a couple of trees. I could do another tree leaning too, out this way. So it's not just one lone tree. He needs a friend. Just really abstract, kind of fun, intense trees. Just kind of hanging out. At this point, you can go ahead and bleed some more, like, or just take some of the wild rose. I'm just kind of tapping in, kind of like if you had cherry blossoms, just a little leaves. Some of these areas. Don't want to play around too much, and I don't want to splatter it. Just want it to bleed. Just a lot of fun, isn't it? See, there's still no green in here. It's just this bright, intense color. This is bled a little bit. If you don't want that, you can kind of play around with removing it. So I've cleaned up my brush, and I'm going to lift some of the paint around it. So it's kind of stopping it from bleeding into the color. almost like a little mop. And I kind of push around some of that pink. So this is kind of a lot of fun. Like I said, if you don't like certain things, you just go back in and kind of lift up some of this with your paper towel. Lift up some of the color if you think like it was a little too intense. Make a little ball. And you can kind of do the bokeh effect. I would take like a little more, not a soft brush, a little harder brush, whatever you have. And I talked about this in a few of my videos, and just kind of swirl around in a circle. Now that it's damp, you can kind of like lift up the paint. You gotta keep cleaning your brush though. So you clean your brush, paper towel, and then circular motion, lift it up. Just kind of go like that. Get those little circles. Make it look like a little magical tree here. Just to keep like going with the water and just removing it. Yeah, there's a little white paint. That can work to your advantage too. It's always good to step back and see what you like what you're doing too when you take the circles out. If you like it. You can kind of remove some of the paint in between these little areas where the branches are to create even a more unique effect for the abstract. Right? Like a shape, a triangle or a square, all these different things, like all these little, doesn't have to be a circle. See, I'm removing some of these and these little spaces in between the branches. And do some circles too. It's a lot of fun. I'm really liking the way it's coming out. Again, you can go back in with your paper towel and lift it up even more intensely. And down here. It's a good thing. I see I'm standing up painting this. It's a good thing to step back and see, because sometimes you can't. You're so invested when you're sitting down. It's hard to see till you step back. And I'm standing up and I can see. Really liking some of these white areas that I'm removing. Just creates a kind of a cool look, right? And you can go back in and add some color too. I'm going to add some more yellow in this section. And again, if I thought, oh, that's too much, just take a little paper towel, play around with the color, remove some of it. It's a lot of fun just to play, guys. I mean, this is almost like a, and then you can go back in and paint some more of the branches. I'm just going to have fun doing this. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry and we're going to come back. And you might see more things removed or things painted over it as I look at it through my scope. So once that's all dry, you just go in and tweak. Like you can add a bunch of branches if you want. Darker, lighter. You know, I'll play around with the amount of color. If it's too dark, if it's, you know, if it's dry too light, I might go back in and add some of the deeper blacks. Not too much though. I like to keep that mysterious looking kind of tree branches that I've created pretty simply here. You know, don't want to fuss too much. You know, that's it. So then we're just going to take off our tape and see what we got. That's my favorite part actually. Removing the tape. I'm removing, see, the tape won't remove the paper, but it removes the cardboard. It's funny. Yep. And like I said, you can play around with adding other colors in here, whatever. See all the little branches that I created. It's a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little abstract number. I'll zoom in a little bit better. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Really, you're just splattering paint. You're pushing around paint. You're removing paint. Try getting one of these tea sponges. They're a lot of fun. You know, you can make a lot of textures with them. Splattering the ink, you know, or you could use salt, but then you have to wait for it to dry. So it can be a little tricky. It can remove a lot of areas. You can remove it like the bokeh technique. So there's a bunch of different techniques in here. A lot of texture, a lot of fun. And color. So you notice how I did a lot of really warm, hot colors, although there is some cool in there because the blues are in there. But that's just like the you know, the opposite, like the purple, the blue, the purple and the yellow opposite. It really pulls it out. You can really, your eyes really caught in here. So this is my abstract, you know, cherry blossom kind of painting. And, you know, you could do this in different tones of blues and greens and be really beautiful also. So play around, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't hit the bell notification button, please do so you know my tutorial's up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We have a lot of fun over here. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon.